guys, so this is the Wuxn WXR 3D printer that actually is quite unique in its own right. This is everything that's included, as you see, and this is how it came out of the box. This brand here is quite unique as they are a US based company, as a lot of the parts and assembly happens here in the US. So we do have checklists of quality assurance, and everything is labeled here, what's been checked and signed by, and also another checklist of everything that's included. The whole printer literally pulls out of the box just like this, pre-built, and then we get a couple boxes, and we can see there a US flag, the manual also, and a full kilogram of filament. And here we have the build plate that's separately packed in some soft foam. All right, so let's go ahead and see what's inside this little box. And we can see we get a few things here on the inside. Looks like we have parts of a spool holder, the power cord, and actually looks quite a bit longer than usual, maybe about 6 feet or so. And it does have a pretty good thickness to it. More spool holder parts. We're gonna need to put this together, or just kind of clips together, it looks like. And it is all 3D printed very nicely, actually. So we get a little blue cable to connect from the printer to the computer, some snippers, and these are quite useful to cut the filament on an angle. We also get a test print, looks like printed on this printer. And for the last part is our scan disk full-size SD card that's 16 gigs. So yeah, very nice. And we also get a wrench, just one size, Allen wrench, but it looks like all of the bolts that we would need to turn are this size. So yeah, as you guys can see, there's not too much stuff going on here. Everything is pre-built and should be ready to go, as we have these pretty long checklists here that tell us that. So let's go ahead and get this foam out. Take a closer look at our build plate, which looks quite cool and unique. It is a Buildtech, got the model WXR, and you can print on both sides, and it's got like this nice textured material, which I believe is the original Buildtech, so pretty cool. There is a cutout here on the top, or at least that's where it lines up, looks like. Let's see. All right, yeah, so they're just lineups, and then it magnetizes. So we're gonna look a little bit more in detail of all the parts in a second. Let's check out this manual here. It's a quick start guide, very nice, thick pages, some safety instructions, unpacking the printer, a few orange parts to remove, and that's these we see, they're all around, and we'll get to that in a second. The spool holder, how it constructs or snaps together and then sits on the top here. All of the different parts of the printer, how to load filament, their calibration cube, which will be the first print, and that's where the bearing should fall right in, and that's the tolerances. And here we got some slicer information, and then on the very back we got support and warranty. So yeah, very cleanly done here, and quite simple, guys. So let's go ahead and remove all of these orange pieces. And so these are just holding the different parts for moving during shipping. So we're gonna grab the wrench that was included, and the first one here is holding the Y-axis build plate. So we just need to release, and actually there's two of them, one on the other side. All right, this should just pop right out. So now our build plate is free to move around. So we have a couple more, one here on the X-axis, and there's a bolt here that goes to the side, and then another bolt on the back right here. It's actually using a little T-nut, so yeah, and it has the words remove on the top of it. Now we do have actually a couple more here on the Z-axis, one on each side. So yeah, quite a few holders here keeping things from moving around. So this one also has a little T-nut, and the last one on this other side. All right, so looking at the back here, we're gonna build our spool holder, which is quite simple. You just grab one part of it, and here on the bracket we can kind of see it says back side or back right. You set it towards the front, and then you kind of put it down and it clips in. So, but before we put it in, let's go ahead and build it. So we're just gonna insert these bearings into the holder like that, and then the other side will just go on top here, just like that. So you kind of have to hold it all together, and then we'll kind of line it up in the center and go down, and it clips right on. Simple as that. And this is what it looks like towards the front, and if we need a center, we can kind of push it around side to side. So the spool just literally sits on the top here and then rolls on these bearings. So yeah, guys, as you can see, there's not much to assembling, taking out of the box, and quite minimal on the end user as far as putting anything together. So starting here on the top, we can see our spool holder and how it comes together. It is fully 3D printed, pretty nice piece. And there are a lot of 3D printing parts on this printer, which I personally like. So we can see our frame here. It's a little different looking than usual, and it is an aluminum extrusion with lots of detail everywhere. We've got end caps, and the fit finish is very nice anywhere you look. So going down here to the x-axis, we can see this is all 3D printed here. These are metal, and we got the clear type V rollers. So this is where you would adjust your tension on the belt for the x-axis. We are riding on these linear rails. So the hot end extruder combo here, which is a direct drive, is quite interesting of how it's put together, and it looks very unique. So on the top here, we can see the motor. There's a switch here. This appears to be kind of maybe like a filament detector, but there's an arrow pointing here to a hole, and that's where our filament goes in. And this is the extruder mechanism here, and it is a 3D printed part. Kind of see the gear in there. We got an adjuster on the other side. Very unique. I am a little worried that the input port here is just a hole, doesn't have brass bushing or anything, but because it feeds straight from the top, it shouldn't be an issue for the most part. And we got this leveling probe here, and we can see that sack of wires coming out and going to the main board. So there we can see our heat break with also the heat block. It does say made in USA on them. And this is a V6 style hot end. On the front here, we got dual coolers. Also kind of hard to see, but they are name branded, looks like. With a 3D printed fan shroud that cools a nozzle underneath. And going to this side, we can see the heat break fan. And it appears to be one of those high-end ones. So going this way, we got the X-axis motor. And all the motors are company branded. Now what's interesting is this piece here is actually 3D printed where the motor mounts. These are metal, but we do have 3D printed parts that connect to them. So flipping the printer around to the back side, we can see these ends where the lead screws go in are also 3D printed. And it doesn't really do anything up there as there's no bearing or anything. You guys can see here where the spool holder clips on. Now what's interesting is because this is a dual Z-axis, they decided not to go with the tethered belt. Normally I do love to see them tethered, as if you spin one, the other one spins, but I've also seen printers that are not tethered that do an excellent job. So going down on the leads, we can see where the bushings are for the connections, and quite interesting as this piece is also 3D printed and can't really see what's inside, but same thing on this side. We've got a lot of wires that go through the back here. They are a little close to the lead screw, but they're tucked away. So going down, we can see the two motors. Again, there's 3D printed brackets that hold the motor, very nicely executed. Same thing on both sides. And this is the kind of coupler we got, which is quite interesting. It's got kind of like a little insert inside. So going down here, we can see it's pretty clean. We do have two linear rails that are very widely spread. I love that. We got a normal style belt. This is the motor here. Again, more 3D printed brackets. So this printer has a lot of 3D printed parts. And looking at the bed a little closer, we can see we got a really thick frame, and it is hard connected to the bed, which is a composite. It's not an aluminum bed, but it is heated. We can see the wire here coming in, which is super strain relief, and it kind of goes around and tucks underneath. There we have the manufacturing label, designed and assembled in the USA, large squishy feet on 4 corners. And going this way, we can see we have the power port, and this is where our AC cord will plug in. Very nice end caps, and our power switch is over here. And going back to the front, you can see what the base looks like. So it's just a cover, and it's actually a plastic cover. We got the 2 rails, the belt here, and this is the idler pulley in the front. And you can adjust this. Let's say your belt is not running true. There are 2 bolts right there on the front that if you turn one, it'll pull one side in, which will be able to level out perfectly to the pulley. So everything is very cleverly designed and well executed. But we do have a lot of 3D printed parts, which is very interesting, and a lot of them in functional areas. And going to the very front, we can see we have a very large display, which has a rotary knob. Looks like something there, maybe a light and a button here, probably the reset. We have a USB port on the right side and a full-size SD card slot on the left. And this is a 3D printed housing and looks pretty nice. Kind of looks like a Prusa. Let's go ahead and peel this off. And we got a nice little brand logo there. And to the left here, nothing too much, just this wire coming out and going to the top of the printer. And you guys can maybe see how well everything is put together. So it is quite empty space. We got the main board here, and then our power supply, which is a Meanwell 350 watt 24 volt. Lots of 3D printed parts all over the printer, even underneath here. Let's go ahead and take this cover off and see the main board. So we can see the main board with stepper drivers. They are heat sinked, and also they are removable, which is really cool. That's the board model there. And yeah, it looks like a really nice assembled board. Everything looks very tidy and clean, and a great execution of wiring. Let's see if we can't pull one of these drivers out, and maybe you guys can see. Probably hard to make out, but Big Tree TMC 2209 version 1.2. So very nice driver. Go ahead and plug it back in, and yeah, Very nice under here, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and put this lid back on and then we'll flip it around. But let's go ahead and look at the screen board here. It's also Big Tree Tech TFT43 version 3.0, and it's all kind of open here, and this is a 3D printed bracket, but again, very clean execution of everything. Looks great. And we also do have pretty large rubber feet underneath the four corners. So the build plate is a build tack material, and the build volume is 250 wide, and then 210 deep, and 250 tall. Yeah, great build volume for a medium format. And the build plate does magnetically stick to the composite heated bed. And we got pretty nice designs here, and it says not to print on this part. And the build plate is reasonably thin. It doesn't flex as much as those super thin ones, but it does still flex. And we do have two different designs that you can print on both sides, so whatever you want to pick. And you guys can see the little cutout there goes around those bolts, and that's how you line it up, and it goes down perfectly every time. And on the corners, on the bed underneath, there's a cutout where you can grab it easily and just pick it up. So, and overall looks quite unique, and I love the gunmetal finish. And if you're a 3D printer enthusiast, you'll probably appreciate this printer a lot more than most. So for next part, let's go ahead and plug it in, turn it on, preheat it, make sure everything works, level the bed, and start our first print. All right, so I got the cord plugged in the back. Let's go ahead and hit the power switch. And we could see the screen lights up, and the knob also lights up. Very nice graphics. And we played some music there. First thing that pulls up here is out of the box wizard. So it's asking us the question, is the metal print surface in place? Talking about this thing here. It is. So we're gonna click on yes. Is it a touch screen? Oh, it is. Okay, great. So you have a knob and it's touch. So the nozzle and the bed are moving right now. It looks like it's gonna be coming down. Let's go back to the screen. So it is setting the Z-axis coupler. So I guess whatever technique that is, that's what it's doing. So it's going back up again. Let's go up and see what it does. Okay, so it hits against the end here, and that's how it calibrates itself to be level. That makes sense, as if you don't have a belt tethered, you do need to calibrate yourself somehow. So now it's testing the fan. It's asking if the nearest fans to you are spinning. I'm guessing these, yes they are, they're both spinning. So we're gonna click on yes. Now it's asking if the hot end fan is cycling on and off, and it is. I can hear it turning on and off, and that's gonna be this one here. We'll click yes to that. So now it's doing a X and Y motor check. Pretty cool little graphics there, very cyberpunky looking. All right, so it's just going back and forth. Okay, so it did the X, now it's doing the Y. All right, so it looks like it's done with that. I'm gonna click continue. And now it's doing bed leveling. So it's gonna take measurements. So here it tells us the difference. So we got 0.2 decreasing accuracy, 0.13. Okay, so as it's taking it, it's calibrating it so it'll be much more accurate. I'm guessing it's going between the two motors is what it's doing. So if the bed is higher there and lower there, it's going to calibrate the motor to go a little lower on that side. Yeah, it's definitely got a advanced bed leveling calibration here. All right, so now it's doing the usual point checks. Now it looks like that was 6 or 7, I guess. So maybe it's a 7x7 or something like that. So yeah, quite a few points. All right, so here it says that our bed has successfully leveled and the measurements have been saved. So yeah, so far, really easy process. We'll click continue. All right, so now it's asking us to put some filament in. Let's go ahead and open up this box with the PLA black that we got. Very well vacuum sealed. So much so that it kind of bit the spool because it's cardboard. So this is just regular PLA, and hopefully we'll still be able to put it on our spool holder, as the type we have here is the kind where it rolls on it. So we'll grab the snippers and we'll cut the filament on an angle. And then we're gonna set it here on the spool holder, and this is how it's gonna roll. And actually, there are some ridges here. That's actually quite unique as it stays in the ridge. So yeah, we're literally gonna insert our filament into this hole on the top, and there's an arrow pointing to it, so where it kind of goes into the gears. And actually it's spinning right now. and it did grab it. Going through down, we should be coming out of the hot end eventually here. And we did have a different color in there, looks like pink. And now the black is coming out that we just inserted. So the question is, if the filament that we inserted is coming out, the answer would be yes. So now it's telling us to carefully remove this extra purge that we had and insert the SD card, which is this guy here. Again, I love that it's full size, and also they give you a really good storage of 16 GB. So the SD card does plug right here. There we go. Now it's asking us if we want to start printing out of the SD card, and we'll go ahead and okay that. It says here it'll take approximately 15 minutes to complete. Okay. Check out our menu there, guys. Looks quite unique. So the printer's getting ready to print. I do hear some fans speeding up underneath the printer. Probably the power supply. But overall, it's actually quite quiet. Or at least not obnoxiously loud or annoying. The fans are more of a humming sound. Alright, so it purged there in the front, and now it's printing. Let's look at our screen here a little closer so you guys can see the fonts. They're quite interesting. So it's a black background with yellow print, and we got quite a bit of information like the nozzle temperature, the bed temperature, and the target, the height of where it's at, 0.95 millimeters, the percentage it's done, the fan speed's at 33 right now, and the flow is 100, speed is 250, and that's alternating there. So, and then we got a pause, Z height adjustment. So this is our baby step on the fly, more, and stop. So if we click on this, we can adjust it up and down. It is set right now to -1. So the font is a little hard to understand, or at least the icons, the pictures of what they are, but once you see what they are, it's self-explanatory. So you got save, the amount you want to go up and down, reset, back, up and down. So let's go back. And then under more, we can adjust our heat, and here between the nozzle or the bed. So pretty straightforward and quite easy to understand. And then the amount here, and then the fan and the percentages, which is the speed or the flow. But yeah, so you guys can see here, maybe there is the fan shroud right in the front, but right underneath you can kind of see the print. So it's not the perfect viewing angle, at least from the front. But from the sides you can see probably a little better, and especially from the back you can see extremely well. So it looks like we are printing and it's stuck and everything looks good. So I guess we'll let this print out and we'll see what it looks like. And it does appear to be printing the same kind of print as this that came with the printer, so we'll see how they both compare. But as far as the noise levels, guys, it's not completely silent, but it is on the quieter side, and the fans are more pleasant on the noise they make and they're spinning. So yeah, overall I would say moderately quiet, but not silent. Alright, so our first print is done and it turned out really good. So on the display here it says to refer to the manual of how to evaluate this print that we just did, which has a very high tolerance of 0.1 millimeters, which you will need a set of calipers, and I do have these, but the digital part of it is not working as the battery has died, but we can still evaluate it. Let's go ahead and pull it off the build plate, see how easy it comes off. Okay, so it's stuck on there very well, even though the plate is completely cold. But it does come off pretty easy. And you guys can see how the bottom is. It's pretty much perfect, I would say. We might need to go down a bit, but I don't think I'd want to because it's already sticking so well. So here we can see the X-axis, and overall it looks great. A little bit of ghosting, but overall very, very nice. And then we got the Y, also very good. And this is the X again. You can kind of see the ghosting here on the back side. And this is on the back of it. And then the other Y side, so yeah, overall pretty good and very minimal vibration, just a tiny bit of ghosting. And the top also looks great, and this is where our bearing will go, which is included, and it should fit in there perfectly, and it does. Just gotta push it all the way down. Literally perfection, as you guys can see. So yeah, let's go ahead and give it a quick measure here. On the X-axis we have exactly 30, which is what it's supposed to be at 30 by 30 cube in millimeters. Then the Y-axis is also perfect, exactly the same as the X. And then the Z is a hair taller than the X and Y, so I would say it's more like 30.1 or something, maybe 0.2. I guess it could go down a bit on the bed, but yeah, this is pretty much perfect tolerances and what you would expect from a 3D printer like this. Just to quickly compare there, this is the cube that was included, and they look practically identical, which they should be because this is printed from the same printer. It's just we printed the black one and this one was included, so pretty cool. So for the next part, let's go ahead and click continue here, and it just goes to the main menu. Let's click on the print button, check out what else is on the SD card, and you guys can see we have also the USB that we can plug in on this side to also access it. And yeah, that's the only thing here. So I think for the next part, let's go ahead and go to the computer and we'll install the slicer and slice our own print and then print it out, and we'll see how that turns out. All right, so here we are at the computer and I got the SD card plugged in. Let's go ahead and open it up. So this is what comes in there, just the G code that we printed out, part of the out of the box wizard print. And here we also have a README file that kind of gives us some tips. On number 4 here, it says do not print PETG filament without a barrier like a glue or something. So it probably will stick too well or fuse to it. But in any case, yeah, you might want to read these things. What I'm not seeing is the slicer, so they don't include that. So I guess we need to go to their website, which is Wuxn 3D, and then we're going to click on firmware and software. And here we can see the slicer, and it is available for PC or Mac. So I got Mac, I'm going to download that one. All right, so we got it downloaded. Let's open it up. So all we need to do on Mac is slide the slicer icon into the applications, and it's going to install it, which is 649 megabytes, and it is done. So now we can go ahead and open it up, and there we go. Make it a little bigger here. All right, so yeah, here we can see the build plate, very nicely presented actually, and we can see our volume and our printer selected here. Yeah, here we can choose what kind of filament we're using. I'll leave it on PLA. So let's go ahead and drag in a calibration cube, zoom into it a bit, and if we click on it here on the side, we can see we can move it around, or we can just use these arrows here to move it around. You can also scale it either by dragging or by entering the specs in here and rotating it. So those are your basic and some more advanced controls here. But what we're interested in is here to the right on the top, which is our print settings. And the first thing we want to do is click on these little icons and click on advanced because we want to see more stuff. So we do have profiles here, go to, and then strong and fast. So yeah, if you want better quality or stronger, you want to click there probably, but go to should be the perfect medium there. So under quality, we can see here our layer height, and everything seems to be good here. Walls, we got only 2. We need to change that to 3, as that'll be a little better. Everything else looks okay. So yeah, everything else looks pretty good. I mean, obviously you can fine tune it, but that's been already kind of pre-tuned to this printer. Print speed is only 50 millimeters a second. Pretty slow. I would think this printer could probably do a little better, but we'll leave everything the way it is for our calibration cube. So yeah, guys, everything else looks pretty good here. I do want to turn off the Z-hop. I don't really like when it goes up and down that much. You can keep it on or off depending, of how you like to print, but I usually turn this off as it's a lot of up and down and retracting and what that else. So cooling looks good. Supports we won't use for this print, but if you do, you're just going to check it and then put all your parameters in here. Then we have build adhesion, which is on skirt, 2 lines. I'm going to go ahead and make that 3. Special modes, which we do have spiralized printing here, and we can try that out also. In any case, guys, everything looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and slice this cube, and we can see that it's going to take 28 minutes. 4 grams, 1.47 meters. So we can go ahead and save it straight to our SD card since we got it plugged in, or if you click here, you can save it to your computer drive. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and save it to the SD card, allow it to read, and there it goes, it's saved. Then we can actually eject it from here. But before we do that, let's go ahead and double click or right click and clear the build plate, and we'll throw a 3D Benchy in here. Click on prepare up here to see it, and actually, I think I just realized I missed the retractions. Where is that at? There we go. Retractions are on. It's at 0.8. So yeah, that seems to be good. Let's go ahead and slice the Benchy. And that's going to take 1 hour and 20 minutes, which is not too bad considering we are printing a little bit on the slower side. So we'll go ahead and save that to the SD card and we can eject it. But before I do, let's go ahead and open up and we can see that we have the 2 new G codes, the 3D Benchy and the calibration cube. So yeah, if you click eject here, it's going to eject the card and then you can take it to the printer and print it out. So yeah, very nice and pretty easy to use slicer, especially if you used Cura before. This should not be a problem. So hopefully this little overview helped with getting started. All right, so we printed out both of our sliced prints, and I have to say they turned out very well. So we were kind of printing at a slower speed, but I used to print at this speed everything. So in the new world of fast printing, everybody wants to print faster and faster, but I do have to say these are very reasonable times, especially for the benchy here. It's 1 hour and 20 minutes, which is not too bad considering how well it turned out. Now we can speed things up as we do have linear rails, and that will improve quite a bit, but to get optimal print quality, if you print at the recommended speed, which is slower, and you have the time to do it, it's definitely worth it. So let's look at this cube first. So here we have the x-axis, and you guys can see how beautifully the layers went down. So the little dots you see in between is actually a randomized z-layer height, or the jump. So this can be fixed where it's only in one corner and it's not as noticeable. So we probably need to change that in the slicer, but yeah, beautiful print for the X. Pretty much perfect, very minimal ringing and almost no ghosting. We got the Y here also, very minor ringing and practically no ghosting. We got the X wall and the Y wall. A little more vibrations, but pretty much perfect. The bottom, excellent. And the top looks great. So yeah, an excellent print here for the calibration cube. So the benchy is still stuck on. Let's see how easy it pops off. Not bad. So the BuildTech definitely sticks well and pops right off, at least here for PLA. So the benchy is definitely nice, guys. Well, let's start with the bottom. So you guys can see that we were kind of too far off the build plate. Not super far, but it could go down a bit. So I guess we could lower that. But yeah, if we look at the sides here, guys, absolutely perfection. Beautiful sides all around. So yeah, on black here we can see every little detail, and it's practically perfect all around. There's no weird ghosting or even very minimal vibrations. We can see here around the arches, also great cooling. We could see it there in that window, very minimal Y vibrations. So yeah, I would say this is perfection right here. And considering this took 1 hour and 20 minutes, this is a very, very nice showcase kind of benchy. Honestly, I wasn't expecting anything less, as this is quite a high-end printer that definitely should produce quality prints as one of its main priorities, which it obviously does, as you guys see. So far everything's going great. I'm going to slice some more models. Also, I'm going to try TPU and see how that goes, and also ABS to see how well it does with higher temperatures, as our nozzle can get to 300°C and the bed all the way to 120. Also guys, in the main menu here, if you click on menu, we can see we have a few more options here, which we do have the preheat presets for PLA, PETG, and it gives you the temperature right on there. ASA, ABS, TPU, and nylon, and you can also do custom here. So also we have movement controls for the home, move, individuals, extruder, and motor release button there. So we got also load and unload, wizards, and so these are the different things it goes through to help you set, including actually PIDs and E-steps, which is pretty cool, and you can reset everything here. And also we have settings, which you can adjust the screen, the terminal, and we have more info about the printer. Pretty cool. All right, and so these are all the prints that we printed. I did mostly PLA, but we also got to do some ABS and TPU. Let's go to this little frog. So this is a tricolor filament PLA, and I sliced all the prints at 0.2 layer height, 60 millimeters a second, so a little bit faster than the 50. 195 on the nozzle and 60 on the bed, and yeah, it stuck very well. Layers go down beautifully, and you guys can see under here, this is the part where it sometimes sags funny. It's pretty much perfect. All the details are perfect also. There is a tiny bit of stringing, which the extruder could probably be bumped up to 1 millimeters. But yeah, if we look here, the layers are sitting very nice. And this filament's really cool because it changes colors depending on the angle. Very nice print. This is literally perfection, guys. So this printer is really good with putting the layers down beautifully. So let's look at another tricolor. And this is a Squirtle, which is a turtle slash squirrel. And yeah, we can see that the layers are just sitting absolutely perfect, guys. So we can see a little bit of ringing, but it's very, very light. So yeah, beautiful print. Just practically perfect. And even here on top of his head, usually this part looks kind of funny, and again, perfect. So yeah, an excellent print again from the WXR. So here we have an octopus, and I scaled this up a bit. So he's a little larger than normal, and yeah, all of the tentacles stuck to the bed and then pop right off, which is not an issue at all for this built-tack material. So we can see all the tentacles look really good. There is very minimal stringing, and overall just a nice clean print anywhere you look. So yeah, great print again. Here we have a print called Gear, and this is a functional print. All these pieces print separately, so you should be able to spin it up. I haven't tried yet. The layers went down pretty good, except for the stitching there. You can see little Z layers that are randomized. They're all over the place, and they kind of stick out a little more than you'd want. So sometimes you can't spin this by hand right off the printer, but it looks like it's trying to. It's barely spinning, but I just need a little bit of help, so I'm going to use the Allen wrench. Stick it in there, and it goes in perfect, guys. So the tolerances are great on this printer. And let's see if we can give it just a little bit. There we go. So it just needs that initial pop, and wow, I can feel it right away that it's perfect. I mean, there's no effort, and there's no wobble either. Very, very minimal, which is excellent tolerances. So yeah, I think this printer has definitely got the leg up and great tolerances. And to prove that, we have another print here, which is also functional, and it printed just like this on the build plate and popped right off. And you guys can see there's quite a few pieces here, and this is kind of like a little tank or something, or tracks. And so these are all individual pieces slash the track that has to connect. But it's quite incredible how it's all printed in one shot. And then all you do is just unfold it like this, and it becomes an actual rolling tank wheels or track wheels or robot wheels, whatever you want to call this. It's really awesome. I've printed a lot of stuff over the years, but this kind of impressed me as it was all in one with no supports or anything, printed just like this. So yeah, very cool. And if you are interested in who made this part, there's a name there that you can check out. So yeah, and again, guys, the tolerances here are very good, and they're quite loose, as they're probably made to, you know, work on any printer. So I could probably downscale this quite a bit and it will still work very well. So yeah, that turned out great. So we do have an astronaut also printed the same filament, which is this matte white PLA. And to be honest, guys, I've never seen the astronaut look this good in white color, because most of the time it looks pretty rough, because it's kind of hard to get this guy perfect, because there is quite a few details and plus a lot of smooth surfaces. You really have to have good filament slash good printer for even flow and a finish like this. And cooling was great underneath the arms there, and stuck to the build plate, no problem. Just the ridges on the shoes there. So yeah, excellent print again. So we did print TPU also, which is this spaceship, and it is in spiralized mode. We did have some meltdown, so probably need a little more cooling. I think the parts cooling fan was turned down quite a bit, which was automatic in the PLA profile in the slicer, but yeah, I think that needs to be turned up because we're melting a bit around the edges, including the top. We kind of ignored that. You guys can see the TPU went down perfect. Even layers. You guys kind of can see by the reflections there. Just an excellent print. And what's great about TPU, it's quite indestructible overall. You can bend it, it'll just bounce right back. So there's good applications for TPU and strength when your use case allows it. So it did stick to the bottom, but when I pulled it off, I accidentally ripped it. But again, no problem sticking with the TPU or printing, just need a little more adjustments there. Here we have ABS, which are these 1/10 size drift wheels. So overall, they printed out and they stuck to the plate. Not an issue, nothing popped off. And we did preheat it to 100 on the bed and 260 on the nozzle. So we did have a tiny bit of stringing and a little bit of blobbing here and there from retraction. So again, retraction probably needs to be bumped up some more. So let's go ahead and see if we can pull this support off the back. And it's stuck in there pretty good. So normally this just comes off. We'll use the snippers here. There we go. Just need a little more persuasion, but yeah, it came out in one piece. So yeah, it feels very durable. I mean, this is just a support and I can't even break it that easy. So yeah, definitely everything bonded very nicely. And we can see here inside it all looks good. The wheel itself looks good overall and the inside looks good. So a little bit of heat gun and all those little whispers will go away. And very usable and extremely strong print. So overall, I would say pretty good with ABS. And for our last print is this vase, and you guys saw earlier that we did break it off because it couldn't print all the way up, just a few millimeters. But it is also in spiralized mode, and it stuck very well to the bottom and then popped right off. The layers look really good. They are a little bit textured or artifacted lines, you guys can see, but yeah, other than that, it's pretty much perfect. And this is a color changing filament, so it starts one and then kind of changes to a different color as it goes up. And yeah, it feels really strong and solid and not an issue for spiralized mode again on this printer. So yeah, I would say pretty versatile and does everything very well. And you do have a pretty premium experience with the operation. But with that said, I do have a couple gripes. One of them is loading the filament. So every time you need to load or unload the filament, you have to do it through the screen, and it gets tedious and takes a while, and you have to be patient with it. I wish that they would have gave us some kind of manual arm where we can press to release the spring here. And I think that would make things a lot easier because this is a direct drive. It's quite easy just to push something and purge it yourself, where you don't have to sit here and wait for it to heat up and then go through the process, push the button, wait for it. Is it enough? It's not. Do some more. Also, changing filament, you can't just come up to it and pull it out. You have to go through the system here to do that. So I found that a little bit tedious and finicky, which was honestly the only thing that I could find that was negative, except for maybe this BuildTech build plate. Now it does stick very well, but I feel like it sticks a little too well, especially when the plate cools off. So if you're used to PEI, you know that when it's hot, it sticks very nicely, but then when it cools off, it practically pops off on its own, which is a plus and a minus to itself. But this BuildTech has a much harder time pulling off even when it's cold completely. So it just grabs better. So I found it a little hard to take off the smaller models that are more delicate off this kind of build plate. But this is obviously upgradable and very easy to change to PEI. The touchscreen is great. This knob you use to quickly change your settings as you are in, let's say you're doing baby sets, you can just spin this, or if you're setting the temperature or anything. So mostly touchscreen, but the knob is like an assist for quickly scrolling through things, which works great. I love the full-size SD card and also the USB on this side. Love the linear rails and all the axes, very solid. And that's another thing that we didn't really do is any kind of high-speed printing, which I'm pretty sure this printer is very capable of, as it is rated up to 500 millimeters a second, but I think it could probably easily do 250, no problems. I love the whole hot end extruder assembly here. It's a work of art with quality materials. Now we do have a lot of 3D printed parts, and these all seem robust and tough and sure feel like it'll last the time as they are printed out. Looks like in some very quality materials, but nevertheless they are 3D printed and it's everywhere throughout the whole printer. So if you like that, you'll love it, but if you don't, there is a bunch of it, and depending how you look at it, it's a positive or maybe not. We do have a V6 style hot end with a slice engineering heat break. Yeah, lots of quality parts on this printer throughout the whole thing, including sensors, motors, and whatnot else, and just a whole thought through design of how everything's put together. And we can also heat up 300C on the nozzle and 120 on the bed. We do have a 250 by 210 and 250 tall build volume, which I didn't really get 250 at, but I got like 245 to 248 or something. Pretty large build volume for this medium-sized format. And also one of the best parts probably about this printer is that the out of bed leveling just works so flawlessly here. And every time you start a print, it actually goes through the bed and makes sure everything is perfect before it puts the first layer down. So every first layer was perfect every time, and you can adjust the baby step up and down. Also, the dual Z axes work great, and the main reason for that is because the software is so smart. It probes each side and then adjusts the lead screws according to that. So yeah, very nice detail there. Excellent printer. printer for anyone that's just wants something that runs out of the box, and not even that, it's pre-built out of the box. So you just open it up, pull it out, install the spool holder, and you're ready to go. So yeah, if you're a 3D printer enthusiast, you'll probably really like this printer, as there's a lot of older kind of vibe with new technology, just a more high-end feeling of the whole printer, kind of like a Prusa printer. So if you guys are interested in this printer, I'm gonna have some links in the description. Check it out. And if you did enjoy this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, check out the 3D printing playlist. I'm sure you'll find something interesting there. And also stay tuned for more reviews, as printers are getting quite interesting. A lot of new unique technologies coming up. And as always guys, I do appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.